So I had a person come up to me the other day after watching the previous adolescent young adult relationships video, and they asked me a question. And it's not a question that I've only heard once. It is a question that over the last couple of years, I've heard this question many times. That's what we're going to talk about. Should I ask that girl, that guy, should I ask them about being in a relationship? Should I tell them how I feel? That's the question. So the situation usually arises something like this, where things have been going along pretty well and one person is enjoying time with the other person, and it appears to the first person that the other person is enjoying the time as well. And then that first person decides that it's time to, maybe the relationship could go to the next place. So we want to take the relationship to the next place. The only way to get to the next place is to say something, to have a conversation of some sort. And inevitably the question becomes, should I tell the person how I feel? Should I tell them what I'm thinking? Should I tell them that I would like to go to the next place? The answer to that question, whether you should or whether you shouldn't, is not as simple as it seems. Let's talk about that. What are the consequences? What are the ramifications for having that conversation? Telling someone how you feel is, at best, scary. It is a scary proposition to sit down with someone and say, here is my soul, here I'm laying it on the table, what are you going to do with it? That's a scary situation. But it is an inevitable situation if you want to take what you have and move it to another place. Breaking it down, you have a situation that is good, and you have two choices. Say something or don't say something. Now, if you don't say something, the good situation will go on the way it is, essentially unchanged. The good situation will go on unchanged if you don't say anything. Over time, it might change a little one way or the other, but if you don't say anything, there's not going to be this crisis moment where something has to happen. If you do say something, there will be that crisis moment. And crisis is probably not the word you're expecting to use there. This crisis moment that I'm talking about is a moment that requires a response of some sort. So the guy says to the girl says to the guy, side box, by the way, it's the 21st century. Girls, you can be the one that says something. It's not 1950 anymore, and you don't have to wait for the guy you're interested in. It's okay. If you want to say something, go ahead. All right. So, the guy or the girl says something, and that requires the other person to respond. That requires the other person to respond one way or the other. So, situation one, you don't say anything, it goes on the way that it's been going with maybe some changes over time. Situation number two, you say something, the other person has to respond, and it can either get better, the way you want it to go, or it can get weird, which is not what you want. If you say, hey, I was thinking we work together pretty good, and maybe we should spend more time together and do some things by ourselves, and the other person's like, what? Oh, my mom's calling. I gotta go change the air in my fish tank. And I said air on purpose because I was trying to be silly. It gets weird or it gets better. A couple years ago, I had this conversation. This was a young lady, and she was like, I have interest in this guy. And I was like, well, what are you going to do about it? She was like, I'm not going to do anything. I would rather things to stay good than to get weird. And I'm not sure that things would get better. And since they might get weird and I like the way things are, I'm not going to say anything. And that was a choice that she made and a choice that worked for her. You have to decide, are you going to say something and possibly make it weird, possibly make it better, or are you going to stay silent and pretty much things are going to stay the same? I wish I could give you an answer. I wish I could give you an answer and say, here's what you should do. Every single time, if you do this, it will work. Now, the follow-up question, the person I talked to the other day, would you say he, let's just say he for the sake of the video, he says, all right, I've decided I'm going to let my feelings be known. Should I text them or should I talk to them in person? Now, this one I feel a little more strongly about. If texting will prevent you from that instantaneous embarrassment if it does get weird. But if you're in person and you go, you know, things between us seem to be pretty good, and the other person's like, yeah, I was telling my girlfriend about you the other day and telling her how nice you are. You now know you probably should back off. And it doesn't have to be that overt that you would get a signal. I would advocate the face-to-face conversation where you can watch the body language. And as you begin to approach that revelation of your feelings, you can see how the other person is responding. And that may allow you to temper what you say in a way. I'm always an advocate for being honest. I'm always an advocate for saying what's on your mind and saying what's true. But I learned a lesson a couple years ago from the other person, and that lesson was what I shared with you a moment ago. If you would rather things stay the way they are and you just cannot risk losing what you have, then you need to very seriously consider whether you want to take the chance on it getting weird or not. That's it for this adolescent and young adult relationship episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I tell you what, I'm really glad to be outside. I cannot tell you the last time I actually saw the sun shining in the sky, either because I was up so early and in the building all day and then stayed for a basketball game, or it rained and was cloudy all day. I am kind of digging this. Hope you enjoyed the back to the park, back to the picnic table. That is all I have for this one. Thank you for watching. Sign up for notifications, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, a question. If you have a question about relationships or anything else, leave it in the comment section. I love to interact with you down there. That is all for this one. I will see you in the next one.